What's your take on how the meta has shifted, and do you have any predictions on stuff that's underplayed or how the meta might fit?
Yeah, I think there will be like a little bit more room to play stage 3 as the patch goes on. You can roll on stage 3 and then often just fast 9 right now. So what happened a lot in my games today is that people are still obviously contesting a lot of the meta 4 cost lines. There's like 3 Heavenly Cane players slash Lee players, right? Every single lobby, a bunch of Ashe players, like one Kaisa player, and maybe a Fata player or something. But almost always they're going to be pretty contested. And so you can go right from like 8 to 9 and just play on 5 costs if you are playing like a really strong stage 3 and streaking and like really high HP, as long as you have the money for it. Obviously, sometimes it just results in you having to have like a later roll down on stage 4, like a 4 or 5, which is kind of okay this patch, I think. I think there's a little bit more room to play around other stuff on a 4 or 5 roll down. We don't have to just say, like, okay, I'm playing Kane and I'm going to roll down at 4-2 or 4-1 before everyone else does and try to, play the contestation game. And so, yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit more. I would say like the Lunar Roll thing is like the only 3 cost reroll I expect to be really decent this patch, like the Umbral stuff. I think it's mostly just the Silas is broken for what it's worth as well. Like Silas is so good
Mhm.
that like him being in that board just makes it really good. Like, I played a game of Yone reroll today, and I was like, I took the dummy, like the triple emblem dummy. It was Reaper, Umbral, and something. And I was playing 4 Reapers, 6 Umbral, and my Yone 3 was getting out DPS'd a ton by my Silas 2 and my Loon 3. But Silas
Oh,
2 was doing more damage than everything, by the way, and he had, like, a redemption on him. That is to say, yeah, I think it more so that, like, Silas unit quality is so out of control that anything that you can play around with Silas on the board is gonna be good. That what that means too is that, like, if you see the lack of Silas in your lobby, you can probably just, like, stick him on a random board and go 9, or, like, make, like, play, like, 2 Bruiser with, like, a bunch of random good stuff at, like, 8 or 9, and you can do well just because that unit is absolutely bonkers. And then obviously some of the Ornn artifacts that got added to the game also affect that ability to fast 9, where it's like that Ascension artifact is the most broken thing in the world right now. And if you ever put that on a Silas, it like gets 10,000 HP. Every single ult does like 2,000 damage. It is not cool. So you can just level up off that too. But hey, that is to say that I think there's more room. Surprisingly, there's like more room to play at 9 because like people maybe just haven't adjusted fully yet. Because I think like I expected this patch to be way more aggressive at 8 than last patch. Not that like last patch wasn't aggressive at 8, right? But it was like people were pretty often trying to go 9 after like a big roll down at 8. Or like a medium roll down at 8. And like a lot of the skill expression, right, was how much do I need to roll down to actually get to 9. Where this patch, I feel like there's a little bit more room to like kind of skip 8 and just go right to 9. Like I think if you play around the Zoe, Zyra, Soraka, Janna stuff, if you ever have like exalted around any of that, that's stuff you can go 9 off of because you can actually do pretty well into like Ashe 1, Kane 1, all that stuff. I think a part of that, for what it's worth, is that because the odds for 4 costs went down on 8, people are missing a lot more. It's actually like noticeable. I've seen like today I saw a lot of like Ashe 1, Kane 1, Lee 1, etc. Like people just could not 2-star their 4 costs because of the shop odds. And that meant that there was a lot more room to abuse that and just say, like, I'm gonna skip the 4 costs for now on 8. I'm gonna go right to 9 after playing this like strong stage 3. It still feels weird to play a strong stage 3 because like you don't want to roll if you don't have to, because there's just so much value to just skip the stage with how low player damage is and everything, and how high player damage has gotten on stage 4 onward. But as to say that there is room for that, and like if you are comfortable doing that, which we've talked about this a lot, and like it's a playstyle that I've certainly pushed you towards it and talked about how good it is to just like have that consistency by having like a strong mid game and potentially go for a strong 3-2. So that does work, thankfully. You can do that. You have to do it well, but you can do that, and like a lot of that does result in you going 9. It is, I guess, the big thing.
okay. So actually, the game I have is like a fast line game, so we can maybe go into some
Oh,
of the
let's go.
nuances of that. But I also want to ask, so the forecast odds went down at 8, but the player damage in stage 4 and 5 went up, and then the
Yes.
leveling cost went up. But so from your like kind of high level take, the odds of the forecast going down outweighs like the impact of so far it seems like of the leveling cost and player damage to allow you to go 9.
So far, I think what it is, and I think this will adjust, I think this will change as the patch moves forward. My first idea of why this is happening in the patch is that people are still trying to have enough money to go 9 very quickly after the roll downs on 8, which with the new shop odd changes means that they're often going to be stopping on 1-star forecast even before they'd have a 2-star forecast, 'cause they're not seeing that pair. They're not rolling more for the 2-star. I think right now that's what's happening. And so people are like getting to 9 off these like kind of really weak boards because everyone's kind of weak on stage 4 because they're all playing on 1-star 4 cost. Maybe the one guy hit Kane 2 today and just had the fastest 9 of all time because he was the one guy in the lobby with Kane 2, right? Funnily enough, in that lobby, there was one guy with Kane 2 and fast 9 that I fast 9 as well with like Zyra 2, Janna 2 carry because I had rolled on 3-2 for the upgrades and then like just kind of coasted through. So I'd say, yeah, I think as it goes on though, I think as the patch moves forward and people realize like, okay, getting to 9 like how I did last patch is not nearly as easy with the stopwatch changes. The thing is, right, is that meta wise, the patch is very similar. Comp wise, right, it looks very very similar. It's like all the same 4 cost comps. The exact like nothing really changed in that regard. Again, maybe like the addition of the Lunar
Mhm.
comp is the one thing, but like Gnar can't is unplayable because of the ghostly change until the B patch. So that's like a weird thing out of the meta. So basically, it looks mostly like last meta, which people are playing it the exact same way. But the system changes really do make it so that like you kind of have to be willing to roll more on level 8, I think, and people are going to realize that pretty soon. And then I'm guessing what it is. So right now, like see a lot of fast 9. I see a lot of fast 9 at least on this patch, and I do a lot of fast 9 on this patch. I think it's going to quickly turn into just like send it to 0 on 8 until you 2-star all your shit, and then maybe you have to go 9 if you're lucky. But like level 8 is going to be where the do or die moment often. Because yeah, like people are not going to basically, the more people abuse all these like 1-star 4 cost stuff by 4 costs all over the place by like playing the really strong 2 and 3 costs that exist, which again is like the Zyra, Janna, Soraka, like that. So we said that's all the strong like 2 and 3 costs. The more you play around that, the more you can punish the 1-star 4 cost guys, which then means that they probably have to roll down much deeper on 8, which again they don't go 9, and so it's gonna move into like a not fast 9. This is my guess. It might not happen, right? But my guess is that it's gonna move into a not very fast 9 meta where it's just again YOLO, I'm gonna hit my shit on 8. Everyone gets a bunch of money and gets their shit on 8, and then it's gonna make that what I just talked about with like the rolling on 3-2 and going fast 9 thing a lot harder, I will say. Like in lobbies
Mhm.
that hit today, and when I try to do that, I would often go like 4th or 5th because I just wouldn't be able to keep up on end of stage 4, and I'd take a bunch of damage, and then like I wouldn't be able to stabilize on 9 well enough because people were just their stuff. And I think that's gonna be the big thing. So
Yeah. So much of it rolling on 3-2 and trying to be aggressive in stage 3 and early stage 4 with the pre-cost it really depends on how aggressive people are being on stage 4 with their gold. How like how much are you willing to roll on 3-2? Like how low gold wise are you willing? Or and
not
that's like
super
kind of
deep.
depending.
Yeah. It's definitely dependent on your on spots and, like, what you need, but I would never roll on 3-2 unless I feel like I can hit with, like, maybe spending 10 gold max. But, yeah, I guess it's more so, like, how much am I willing to spend is not the question, it's how much I expect to have to spend to get the spikes I want, right? 'Cause, like, I'll only roll if I feel like if I have, like, Janna pair, Zoe pair, Lowy pair, I'm hitting deep until I feel like I hit maybe 1 or 2 of them, and then I'm strong enough to just go from there. But I will not do that. If I'm like, Zoe 1, no pair, Lowy 1, no pair, Zyra 1, no pair, then I'm gonna sit there and just go for the fast 8 situation more than likely. But I mean,
Mhm.
that like, you shouldn't be in that spot often because, like, the way we play stage 2, right, with that style is, like, to set ourselves up for a 3-2, and so you're holding the right pairs and you're making money in the right spots, and yeah, so it's more so, like, how you wanna be in this you wanna roll when you expect to hit very quickly.
And this also kind of goes back to our conversation last time around you're avoiding rolling deep unless you have a strong belief, like scouting the lobby, that you can streak all of stage 3.
Yeah,
Is that
especially in this
right?
patch, 100%. Yep. Yeah, if you feel and the thing is you often will be able to. There'll be there might be, like, 1 or 2 really high roll people who are, like the one guy who's, like, level 7 on 3-5 today with, like, 40 gold, but I beat him on 6 because I had rolled for my, my upgraded units. And so it's just understanding, applying that understanding of, like, how strong your board is compared to them. Often people are greeting items right now as well because they don't wanna commit super hard, so, like, you'll see, like, people with, like, a full item on bench or, like, 3 or 4 components on bench, maybe not 4, but, like, 2 to 3 maybe. And so you can get away with streaking off, like, not rolling super hard on 3-2 as long as you set yourself up. I think the biggest thing is setting yourself up item-wise, and so making sure that, like, off of stage 2 carousel, and through Krugs, you have more than likely, like, 3 full items you can slam and, like, taking the right component off carousel to make that happen, like, slamming the right stuff to make the item economy really good. Because the items are, like unit quality is certainly one thing, but items are, like, another huge part of that, right? And making sure that you actually have the power. Because like, you can take, like, a bunch of econ augments too and still streak super hard as long as you have the right pieces. Because there actually is, like, a big divide, I think, right now in 2 cost strength. where I feel like the AP 2 costs are so good, and then like Teemo can be really strong, and I think Zyra is really strong, and I think Janna can be good if she's exalted. And then like some of the 3 costs, right? Like I think Soraka is pretty good, and I think Zoe's pretty good as far as 3 costs go for killing stuff, and then for having good fights. And the front lines that go with him are just very good. But then you play stuff like Senna feels kind of horrible right now, in my opinion, on stage 3, like especially with the ghostly change, right? I just think the unit quality isn't really there. And then same thing with like the Kiana stuff. Like Heavenly through stage 3 just gets farmed by like the Zyra, Soraka stuff. Like even if it's is Darius getting nerfed, I think I think his stats got better, but like in the data, I think he looks better now. But he's definitely weaker on stage 2 and 3, particularly stage 3 than he was before. And so you can abuse that. You can abuse that shift because people haven't really. The focus has been so much on stage 4 for so long now that people haven't really, I think, observed well the shifts on stage 2 and 3 and like unit quality. And that like often if I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, I will always build AP items unless I have like a Sivir 2, because I think Sivir 2 is like an insanely good unit. And like all that Story Weaver stuff is very good too, right? But yeah, it basically like unless you have, I almost always play towards AP if I have no direction, and then if I don't have anything to hit, then I just won't roll on 3-2. And then hopefully I just don't have myself in that spot. But yeah.
So if you're leaning OP in the early mid game, because I feel like a lot of the meta comp, like, Paisa, Ashe, Kane are all AD. And so then you're kind of, so one of the benefits is you're probably stronger in like stage 3. You're not contesting over the same units as stage 4. But a lot of the like late game cap requires you to hit like way and
5
fear.
costs. Yep.
Yeah. And so then you really need to make sure you're healthy and you have enough gold to like survive like end of stage 4, early stage 5 when the other people hit their 2-star forecast, so that you have enough time. Hopefully you get a way to like start printing the 2 cost or the 2 stars. But that's kind of the bet to like play towards those legendaries with probably like a Dragon Lord like supporting cast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I played a lot of Dragon Lord today for sure. I think a lot of it is like exactly what you said, right? Like the Fast 9, because I have been doing that a lot into Fast 9, is because you're building AP items. The trade-off, right, is that like the AP 4 costs are definitely worse. Lilia's not very good, in my opinion. Morg's actually much better this patch. She's like definitely playable. And like Morg Silas is still very good. So if you need a roll on 8, you can look for like some kind of Morgana thing. Syndra is less reliable, but is playable. And then like technically you can reroll. Like rerolling Soraka, Zoe. I played a game today where I had March of Progress and I just rerolled. I think I rerolled Zyra. I rerolled Janna, I rerolled Zoe, I rerolled like TK3 and like a Mumu and like a Lux or something. And like, it was enough, right? Because like the AP units 3-star are good enough. I ended up beating out like a really capped level 10 board with like a bunch of 4 and 5 costs on it. But I say there is room like, yeah, I did, yeah. There's room for like all this weird 3-cost stuff, but only if you feel like you came to 9, because it's less reliable, I would say. You have to have like a really strong econ augment, I think, to want to reroll stuff. Because for example, if you get like, what is the augment where if you get to 9, you get 30 gold? That one's really good.
Late game specialist.
Yeah, late game specialist. Like that one feels insane for that playstyle, because you just go 9 on 5-1 and you have 50 gold, and you just hit like a 0-1 way 1 and you're stable for a while. With some kind of and you'll get some 4 costs over the course of stage 4 as well. But yeah, a lot of it is just it's a little bit risky, because again, like the 4 cost outs for AP are definitely worse, but there are those backups if you need them. And then if you get to 9, like you're chilling. And again, the units are so strong through the mid game that it ends up working out pretty well, at least in my experience today. Again, as the meta shifts, I expect it to work less well as people are like, Kane 2, Lee 2 on like 4-2 or 4-3, as they they start rolling to 0 instead of saying like, okay, I'm stable on Kane 1, because they're probably not right now. But yeah, that's more or less how the playstyle works right now, I would say.
I still think part of it depends on like how many people are going like Kane, Ashe, Kaisa, since it like if there's a Loon player and there's like Gnar comes back, there's a Gnar player, then they're contesting each other less, so they're more likely to hit their 2-star forecast. Whereas if everyone's doing forecast, then it's kind of like last patch where like hopefully nobody hits, especially with the lower odds.
Yeah, it's definitely important to keep an eye on login in it.
Strategy. Yeah. Which again goes back to like don't slam. So you could get
right. Because then people won't be slamming. If you are willing to slam aggressively and like be confident around the items you're slamming, right? Like I slamming Shojin, slamming like Sunfire, slamming stuff that you'd feel like you wouldn't want to slam in a game where you're just going fast 8. If you do that and then say, okay, I'm going 3-2, I'm going to 3-2, and then I'm just going right to 9, it works most of the time, I would say, as long as you play it well. It is definitely spooky, but
Okay.
often I mean, you get so strong though, and people sack so hard right now that because people are sacking their stage 4s as well, right? The high roll people are just killing the will roll people on stage 4. And so most of the like
Mhm.
you almost never will go bot 2 by just playing on 3-2. You'll almost like your chance of top 2ing is less, I would say, unless you feel like you can go right to 9 as well. But you almost never bought 2 because there's gonna be 2 guys who roll down on 8, hit absolutely nothing, and then just get blasted on stage 4 by everyone. So it should be okay. You'll never be the guy who like misses and then goes 8.
It kind of reminds me of Heartsteel meta, like from last set, where everyone was rolling down for like Zed and Ezreal, and if you just missed that, you just dies in the
Die.
death that they
Yeah.
did. But if you preserve the HP, then you
Go
hopefully
like
get like a
4th.
top 5.
Yeah, like a very
Yeah.
strong 4th or 5th. There's, funny enough, just an example of how well that works right now. I played a game today where I clicked the Yorick augment, and I got contested on it, and then I hit 0 Yoricks rolling at 6. I hit Darius 3 though. I had Rageblade, BT, Gargoyle, Stoneplate, Darius 3, and I went like the worst build I've
Okay.
ever seen in my life. But because I was strong through the mid game, like I was beating like the Ashe 1 players. I was beating the Kai'Sa 1 players and some Caitlyn
Mhm.
players because like I just had unit quality more or less. But it can be okay. You won't go. You basically like if I don't bot you that game, then you probably won't bot you like any game if you play on 3-2.
Yeah.
Is the point, I
And it's
guess.
just more fun and less frustrating than playing the same lottery and
Way more fun. Way more fun. It makes the game so much more. The thing is, and this is the reason why I think I've been so like down on TFT this past couple of patches, that the game gets so boring for me when it's just like the exact same macro every game, right? When the game is always just
Mhm.
like save money, roll down on 8, like just spawn us in at 4-1 then, like what's the point?
Yeah.
But like when there's all that mid game to be played, it's so much cooler. And like you can get some weird, wacky situations, and that's where TFT really shines, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah, I wonder like what their design. It seems like their design macro design philosophy is like they want the game to be played at 4 and 5
Right
cost
now,
levels,
right? Yeah, yeah. It's
and it's
definitely
like all the
shifting.
feedback on the low cost, like they just are moving away from.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's been like because the thing is, the low costs are really good for a while, and again, there are some good ones still, but like the clearly the system changes they just made are like very very heavily implying that like they want the whole game to just be about 4 and 5 costs, which scares me. That's
Mhm.
boring, but yeah.
And all you really need is like at least a few more options at the low cost to at least diversify the meta.
Yeah, no, for sure. The thing is, like, I think the reason why I like set 10 so much is that you could like on 3-2, if you roll down, you were rolling to stabilize, and you just hit 6 Kales. This is like before Kale got buffed even. You could just play Kale 3 from the right spot, right? You could just play like
Mhm.
I don't even remember what the other like weird shitter 2 costs were, but there's all kinds of weird things you could hit, right? Like I did this with Lulu a lot and like Vex a lot. Like you could just play
Seraphine.
those. Yeah, Seraphine, right? There's like all kinds of cool little things you could just play because like you had to roll there, you hit a bunch of them, and then like the 3-star one was good enough. Um, so yeah, I think hopefully we'll move back towards that. I think TFT kind of goes through like phases for sure, right? Where like in this set we've seen that it went through like the big man, 3 costs are broken phase into now the oh man, 4 costs are broken phase. So hopefully we'll go into like the everything's good, world peace, utopia phase where like every unit is playable